Hey guys, welcome back to Science Skills and Life Skills with Vikhyath, and welcome to part 2 of the Web Development 101 course. In this course, you're going to learn how to create a fully functional and stylish website. This is part 2 of the course, and in case you haven't seen part 1, please make sure to check that out in my channel playlist called Web Development 101. So in this video, we're going to learn all the elements that you can add in an HTML website and also how you can style them. So I'm going to be explaining this with the help of a unit conversion web page. So here I have opened my HTML file in the IDE, and as you can see in the title tag I've given the unit conversion, which is explaining the basic purpose of a web page. So the first element that I'm going to be teaching you about is the comment element. So the comment element is somewhat like the rough work in your arithmetic problems. When you solve an arithmetic problem, you're going to have a lot of rough work. But this rough work is only for your reference and not for anybody else. The same way, we can use comments so that us developers get an idea of what the file is about. So let's say I have given the comment tag here, which is a lesser than symbol, an exclamation mark, and 2 hyphens, followed by whatever you're going to write in the comment, and then 2 hyphens and a greater than symbol. So let's say I write subscribe, and then I check it out in live server. As you can see, nowhere is subscribe written. This comment can only be seen by the developers and not by the users who view our web page. So rather than subscribe, I'm going to be writing something useful. So I'm going to be writing convert Celsius to Fahrenheit, and then I'm going to be giving another 2 other comments. All these 3 comments are going to explain what a web page is about. So convert kilograms to pounds and convert kilometers to miles. So this way, if let's say I open this file 2 months later, I can figure out quite quickly what this HTML file is about. So the next element that we're going to learn is the heading tag. So there are 6 types of headers in HTML, starting from H1 all the way up until H6. H1 has the biggest font and H6 has the smallest font. So now I've written some text in all these heading tags, and now we're going to check it out in live server. This is the difference between all the heading tags. Heading 1 has the highest font and heading 6 has the smallest font. So that is a header. So for now, I'm going to be using an H1 tag, and in that I'm going to be writing unit conversion. Now there are many ways you can divide an HTML web page into parts. You can either divide it using div tags, you can divide it using section tags, you can divide it using articles, you can divide it using span tags, and many other ways. So for now, I'm going to be using this section tag, which is going to have an attribute. So for now, I'm using a section tag with an ID attribute as home. Now an attribute tells you more about an element. It adds more details to an element. For example, in the script tag, we have an attribute called source, which leads to main.js. In this link tag, we have another attribute called href, which has style.css. So the same way, in the section tag, we have an ID called home, and this ID is a unique way to identify this section. We can use this ID later in CSS or in JavaScript. So in this section, alongside the H1, I'm also going to be adding a nav bar. A nav bar is what you see on the top of most web pages, where you can navigate to different parts of the website. So for example, in this nav bar, I'm going to have an anchor tag. Now what is an anchor tag? An anchor tag is basically a hypertext link that leads you to different websites or to different parts of the same web page. So in this anchor tag, we're going to give an href, and this href is going to specify where you want to go after you click on the hypertext link. So for example, I write hashtag temperature, and I write here temperature, and then I check it out in live server. You can see that I have a hypertext link here, and for now, if I click on it, nothing's really going to happen. I have not yet defined hashtag temperature, but later on in the video, you're going to see how this is going to help. So we're going to create a few more anchor tags here. with href kilogram, hashtag kilogram, and in the text we're going to write kilogram. As you can see, I have another hypertext link here. Now when hypertext links are given in text, it doesn't really look that good. So let's give it in a button. So first for that we're going to create a button element, and we're going to put this anchor tag inside this button element. So let's see what happens. So as you can see, temperature is now inside a button. We're going to do the same for the kilogram. Now our anchor tags look much more organized. So now our anchor tags look much more organized in the form of buttons. It is also important to note here that these IDs are case sensitive when you use them in CSS or JavaScript, which you're going to see later. So that is it about our navbar. So how do we identify an element? We've already seen one way of identifying an element, which is the hashtag ID name. That is called an ID selector. We use this ID selector in the navbar. Another way to identify an element is the element selector. So let's say we have 8 buttons across a web page. If we want to give a similar style to all these buttons, we can use this element selector to save our time, and we can assign a common property to all these buttons. Class selector is used to select a particular group of elements. For example, if we have a division and we want to style all these elements inside that division with a white font color, then we can give all those elements a class name, and with that class name we can give it a white font color. Now to use an ID selector, we use the hashtag and an ID name. For the element selector, we just give the name of the element, and for a class selector, we give a dot and then the name of the class. So that is the syntax of all these 3 element selectors. So now you have understood what this hashtag temperature, hashtag kilogram, and hashtag kilometer is for. Now we're going to move on to the next part of this web page. We're going to give a div, which is a short form for division. We're going to give an ID, all, and version sections. So this is basically the main part of our web page. So this div will contain all these sections where you can convert the units. So now in this div we're going to give a section, and we're going to give the ID as temperature. Now if you remember, this is the same ID that we're given in this href. Now what's going to happen is if you're going to click on this button, it's going to redirect us to this particular section. So that was the purpose of giving this href. Now inside this section, we're going to give a div tag with ID TMP. The purpose of a div tag is to organize all the elements vertically. Span tag on the other hand organizes all the elements horizontally. So now inside this division, we're going to use an element that has not been used in this web page till now, which is figure. Now figure is used to store images and captions. Now for this you're going to need an image. So we're going to go to Google and we're going to search a thermometer logo, as this thermometer logo best represents temperature. So we are going to be taking an appropriate logo. And now we're going to right click on the image and click on save image as, and we're going to select the same folder where we have our HTML file, and we're going to give it an easy file name. And now as you can see in the editor, we have image.jpg reflecting in our file bar. Now we can use the image element, which is img, give it an attribute called source, and in that we're going to give image.jpg. Now if we check this out in live server, we can see that the image is here. But now we need to resize it. It is way too big. So for this, we're going to give a width, which is 200 pixels, and a height of 200 pixels. So now as you can see, the temperature symbol has become a lot smaller. I'll also be giving it an ID, which is image EMP. I can style this in CSS later. Now in this figure element, we can add a default element which is fake caption. So this is basically going to add a caption for the image. So for that we can write convert Celsius to Fahrenheit, and this caption is going to allow users to understand what this image is talking about. Now after this figure element, we're also going to be adding an article. Now this article division is going to have all the specific options to convert the temperature. So in this article we are going to add a field set element. Now this field set element is going to contain all our form controls. Form controls are how the user inputs information to a web page. For example, text inputs, drop-down menus, buttons, etc. Now in this field set element we are going to add a legend tag. Now this field set element is going to create a default box around itself, and the legend tag is going to give a title to that box. So here we're going to give temperature, which represents what our form controls are going to be about. So let's see what it looks like in live server. So as you can see, we have temperature written here, which is our legend, and the field set element has created a default box around it. Now we're going to add our form controls inside it. Now after the legend element, we're going to define our form controls. So we're going to first add a label, and as an attribute we're going to give for. For is like a class selector, but which it's only used for text inputs and labels. So in this for we're going to give temperature, and here we're going to give Celsius, which is going to be displayed to the user. And after this we're going to give a break tag. Break tag is an element in which we don't have an ending tag, and it basically gives some space. It gives some vertical space between elements. Now we're going to add an input, and we're going to give type. Now we can use an input for a variety of purposes, such as a button, checkbox, date, color, etc. But in this case we're going to give a number, because the user is going to input a number of degrees Celsius, which is going to be converted. We're going to give an ID, which for now we're going to give C, which stands for Celsius. We're going to give another break tag, and then we're going to add a button. And this button we're going to give the text as convert, and we're going to give an on click attribute, and we're going to give a function which is convert brackets. We'll also be giving an ID, which is EMP button. And now after our button we're going to give another break. Now after our break tag we're going to add a label, and in this label you're going to give an attribute of for, which is temperature, which is the same as this label, but we're going to give the text as Fahrenheit. And this label is for the next input, before which you're going to give a BR, and then we're giving the input with the type as number. Almost the exact same thing as this input, except that we're going to give the ID as F, so that we can style this in CSS later. And that's it for your field set. Now after your article we are also going to be adding an aside tag. Just as the name suggests, this is used to give a postscript or information that isn't so important but can be used by the user for reference. So in the aside tag I've written to convert Celsius to Fahrenheit yourself, use Celsius into 9/5 plus 32. That is going to give you the Fahrenheit, and I've given this for the user's reference. Now whatever I've done in this temperature section, I'm going to repeat for all the other units that I'm going to be converting. So now I have completed all the sections, which includes weight and distance, as well as the temperature that I've showed you before. And I've also made some minor changes here in the href. Now we're going to check it out in live server. Now this is how it looks like. This is what it looks like in live server. So if you click on temperature, it redirects us to this section here. If you click on weight, it redirects us to the weight section. And if you click on distance, it redirects us to the distance section. So in the next video, we're going to learn how we're going to style this website because it looks really boring. And we're also going to be giving the convert functionality in the next video. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and stay tuned to this series.